Hey, welcome back, everybody. And we're going to have a fun show today. We're going to go through some really fun metrics. And like the title says, hey, listen, there's not been a major change in our market. There has been a little bit on the national level, but not a ton. So we're going to take a look at some national side. We're going to look at the local side. We're going to kind of clear through some of that chatter that's out there. All right, we got a good show. Let's get it going. Okay, so one of the big things, and make sure that if you want this weekly report, along with the other things like this video, there's no cost. Just go ahead and subscribe, ping us, and let us know that you want, the scoop. Anyway, look, here's the thing. As you can see from the chart, we go back to 2023, we have 2024, we have 2025. Okay, and you can see that our numbers are not that crazy, and we see our median line right there. And again, it's not that crazy at all. The one thing that is important is that as we're taking a look at this year, absolutely, without a doubt, we have not seen that big, massive spring surge that we normally get. In this circumstance, it's been relatively flat. It doesn't mean we're going backwards, but it's relatively flat. New construction actually made quite a bit of headway. And if we take a look at a couple of these charts, here's again existing homes. This is a national level, okay? And 4 million, that's the month-over-month change that you see. But look, 2023, 24, and 25. And they're not that far off from each other, okay? So as we pop out and we take a look at bigger charts, even Lawrence Yun, he says, hey, home sales have been about 75% of normal or pre-pandemic activity for the last 3 years. Even with 7 million jobs added to the economy, said Lawrence Yun, pent-up housing demand continues to grow through, though not realized. Any meaningful decline in mortgage rates will help alleviate that demand. When we take a look at the chart here, we can see going back to 1990, and we start rolling that forward. The media's job is to sensationalize. That's how they sell marketing and whatnot. Here, we're not sensationalizing. Here, you just get a very clear understanding of what's going on. You can see our two major peaks. The nearest one on the right is 2020, and of course, we all know what happened there. The one on the left, before the massive fall off, was 2008. And you can see where we're at today. And so, all things considered, our market is doing really well. And we normally see a slight uptick in foreclosures, and we've seen that. Again, it's nominal, okay? There's nothing significant there. Are there going to be some folks that are going to be in trouble? Oh, sure, there always is. Always will be. I'm sorry. However is, since 2008, when they put in a lot of very specific guidelines, including stress testing, somebody for a mortgage, look, people are solid. Plus in, 2020, 2021, 2022, people refinanced, most of which are all into the low 4s to 3s. And I want to say that's 70% of your mortgages. So again, stability wise, we're looking really good. Now, commercial real estate, that's bobbling a little bit because they went from 4% lending rates. And remember, they don't do 30-year financing, unfortunately. They do 5, 7, 10-year financing windows, and they have to refinance. And now they're in the 7/8s, okay? So their interest rates doubled, and typically with a much higher cost to that. Plus, the frequency is significantly higher, right? So when you take a look at that, those are the folks that we're going to see that are going to have a bigger impact on our real estate industry as a whole, not necessarily residential. All right. When we go ahead and if we pop over and we take a look at some of our key headlines, there we go. No major changes for home sales. Bottom left, mortgage rates edged down from recent highs, but still remain just a shade over 7. Upper right, you can see we're at 7.02. Last week, we were at 6.89. Yes, rates change every single day, multiple times during a day. Remember, the feds do not control mortgage rates. They control commercial lending, your HELOCs, car loans, what banks lend to each other on a daily basis. If you have a business loan, that's what they do. Because remember, the feds only meet once every 6 weeks, whereas mortgage rates, they go up and down every day. So keep that in mind as you're looking at, hey, what's the real information and what is really happening, okay? Bottom right, mortgage demand impacted by rising rates. Yeah, no kidding. So remember, inventory and mortgage rates are going to be the biggest impactors. Is that right? An impactor? Have the biggest impact on real estate, okay? So we've had a shortage of real estate, which creates scarcity, which means that people are willing to be a little more aggressive. Mortgage rates have probably the number one biggest impact on real estate because that tells people what they can buy, how much they can buy, and that translates into our Bentley Properties because it's out there. We're still seeing multiple offers, just not as many. There are certain areas that, and we're going to get into a chart here that says, hey, listen, buyers are still buying, sellers are still selling, but they need to be a little bit less aggressive on price. And that is the key thing that we look at. So when we pull up Freddie, and we take a look, we can see that, hell yeah, you know what, we took that little update, but you can see the right there. Those are, without a doubt, showing you the ups and the downs that happen every single day, every single week. More of the big dip that you see, that's when the feds dropped their rate of 0.5%, and you immediately saw that had an inverse effect with residential mortgage rates. Feds dropped half, boom, that immediately shot up mortgage rates. Sometimes they follow each other, sometimes they don't. They are just not related. There you go. All right, so if we come back here and we start taking a look at our running 7-day averages, if you look at the center chart, month over, the same month year over year, average days on market is bumped up 1 day, and we lost about 1% of our list to sales price. Now, just to be clear, if I have a home that's listed at $100,000 and I sell it for $100,000, that's a 100%. Okay, that's why I'm using this number. Super easy. If, however, I have a $100,000 home listed and I sell it for $99,000, well, that's a 99% list to sales price. We have dropped that 1%. Not a big deal. Some of that has to do with pricing. However, is all things considered, situational, that number bobbles up and down. If we take a look at our running 7-day average, look at that. We have 985 homes that came on market, and we had 1,279 that went pending. That is a super good number because that shows us that we had less coming on market, more going off market. Okay, meaning not available. Buyer and seller agreed, boop, comes off the market. But we still had 900 and some odd homes coming on the market, which is good. But take a look at that. We had 600 and change homes that reduced their price. Super smart. Why? Because we're heading into that vacation trifecta. We're heading into that. The all are going to be over today. I'm surprised there's as many people out in the real estate world as myself. Because there's a lot of people that are gone, which is totally situation normal. So when we take a look at these numbers, we are seeing some still really good activity. Remember, super accurate information, we're running through the same identical metrics every single week. This way it makes it consistent for you guys, so it's easy to track. And there's no selling, which makes that super easy. So let's get into the Northwest US. We looked at the national thing, let's look at our local side. Let's see what it shakes out on this one, and you guys tell me what you think down below. Now, here's the thing. When you take a look at the center column, which is the month over month, year over year, and the year to date on the right-hand side, okay? This is all of the Northwest MLS, just 3/4 of Washington State. Yes, we've got a 32% increase. Not this time of year at all. We should be at about 18 to 22,000 homes. We're at 14,000, so we're still short of where we would historically be, but I still think we're in a good balance. Sales-wise, we're up to 2.7%, and then, of course, pendings are up 3.2% year over year. That's super important to understand. where everybody's saying, hey, our sales are slowing down, just floating. I mean, to have, 2% more sales than we did last year, that's not any record-breaking, groundbreaking, earth-shattering news. That's just horizontal. Situation normal, perfectly fine. We're not going down. We're not really, we are slightly going up, but we're mostly flat. Same thing with the pendant, okay? Now, when we come back and we take a look at the month over month, look, we don't have any change in the number of sales that have closed, and, we're basically near the end of the month here, but our pendants are up 11.5, which is super awesome. Now, you might say, George, what the heck, man? Active versus sold ratio, because we're hearing that, prices, they're going down, and people are just crashing their, their home sales. And no, that's not the case at all. We're seeing a modest adjustment. And so we opened up this chart so you guys could see it in the middle, year over year for the same month of May, 2024 and 2025. The list price is up 2.2%, roughly about $30,000, about $20,000, $23,000. And then the average sold price is about $34,000 less, from $882 to $858. That's for the month of May. Now, if we take a look at year to date, we're up by $8,000 on average. List price, again, is still 2.2% above. So when you look at those numbers, you don't see any massive fall off. And we're still seeing an 11% month, for the month of May, year over year. We're still seeing an 11% increase and a 3% increase on sales. So yes, we historically buck the trend of the nation. In our area, we're still one of the 5 sweet spots across the United States. And that's super important, because then as we delve into new construction, these guys, they pulled a rabbit out of the hat, as they say, because listen, last week and the week before, especially 2 weeks ago, they were suffering, right? If we blow these numbers up, there were 633 more year over year, but we have improved. Like last week, we were almost negative 16%. We're now only down to, let's call it 12%, or a 4-point difference. And that's year over year. When we talk about the number of pended, we're the same as we were at last week. But when we take a look at just the month of May, look, 2 weeks ago, they were down almost, over a third, just shade, basically a third of the homes less sold or closed than they had year over year. Now we're only off, by 13.8, let's call it 14%, or half of the amount of what it was just 2 weeks ago. They're really making some ground. And, as far as pended, they've actually bumped up really well on those numbers also, which helps significantly, as far as with those builders. Part of it is that they made some investments too. They made some additional concessions. New plats coming on are at a better price. And so they're not pushing price as aggressively, which is super important, because it allows them to get that product off the table, which at the end of the day, that's what we all need to do, right? All right. So if we open up this chart, and you might say, okay, George, let's talk about our sales prices, and are we consistent? Here we go. Middle chart. In the green, that's the same month of May, year over year. List prices are up basically 5.2%, and sold prices are up 3.2%, or about $30,000. Year to date, again, those numbers are up. We're up 3.4% year to date on new construction sales, and list prices, of course, they're up 5.2%. And the important part about that is to let you know, hey, what's happening in some pocket areas nationally, that's not us. Yes, we are seeing a slower sale. Do I still think we're going to see an 8% appreciation this year? If we see rates come back down out of the 7s into the mid 6s, we could very well see that, because there's a massive pent-up demand. We've got right now, it used to be a seller's market, and then it's kind of lean. Now we're just off center, right? Just off center into the buyer side, just a tiny little bit. Because we are still seeing multiple offers on well-priced homes, okay? All right. If we take a look at the next chart, whoops, let me let's pull this up. There we go. So I want to give people a chart look of what to expect because there's some forecasted numbers. So last year on the far left, it says last year. Okay. And it shows above that, it shows today between the green line, which is active, and the red line, which is our painted or sold, right? And then you see in August, you can see how it just drops. Situation normal. Because on the right-hand side, as you're seeing that, you're like, George, that red line's heavy. It's heavy. And I'm like, well, I get that. And that is seasonal normal. Okay. New construction is very transparent as far as when people kind of go on vacation mentally. And then, of course, you know, as August starts kicking around, you know, people start situating for school, for getting ready for the snow to fly again. I got to secure that home. And then we see that increase in activity, both in resale and in new construction. It's just with smaller numbers, it just makes it more evident. So anyway, do expect to see that. Still a great time because a lot of buyers are out, they're doing different things. Now, if we pop over and we start taking a look at bank-owned is super, super ass boring. Because, well, there's just not a lot out there. We have a 3-property change from last week, which is negligible. You know, really at the end of the day, you know, it said, you know, last week we were at negative 29.4 as far as sales closed. Had a couple of sales. Look at that. Now we're down to 9.1. Why? Well, because we just had some closings. It's no big deal. It's pretty small potatoes, all things considered. Bank-owned homes are not, for investors, are not great ideas. Why? Well, because they do paint, carpet, vinyl, and they get them sold at market value. Now, that's perfectly fine because there are so many other options that are available to you out there that have a lot more securities and whatnot. Not saying that bank-owned homes aren't a great deal. Well, they're not a great deal, but they're an average home seller with a few restrictions. There you go. Situation normal. Anyway, smash that subscribe button. Let me know what you think. Put down below if you agree or disagree with me. Love to have the chat. If you're going to disagree with me, at least have some metrics other than some generic comment. I guess I could deal with that one too. It doesn't matter. Anyway, in the meantime, it's a beautiful day out there. Have an absolutely fabulous weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.